some of the fans who see me play on the left wing a few times or the right wing, that was because the big centre forward had threatened to do me a few times, and I generally sort of went out a little bit wider on those games, because in those days, you know, if Larry Lloyd said to you he's going to do you, Larry Lloyd was going to do you.
So you started your coaching career back at Aston Villa as a youth team coach, and you went on to coach under people like Tony Barton and Bruce Rioch at Middlesbrough. How much do you learn from those kind of managers for your own coaching career?
I think Tony's mannerisms were very important to me. He treated people well, and I think whilst it's well documented that Ron Saunders was a real tough, and he was a tough manager to deal with. I mean, he didn't give praise out too much, kept everybody at arm's length. Tony was very reachable, very accessible, so I think that impressed me. So there was that side of Tony which just proved that as a manager, you could be, Mr. Nice Guy sometimes, and still have the respect of people. Bruce taught me about hard work, about commitment, about being at the front, about leading the front line. He was incredible at that. Bruce was a real top bloke who I worked for 3 years at Middlesbrough with, who every night of the week we went to football matches. He never stopped working, he never stopped scouting, never stopped thinking about the next player, the next team. He was just incredible, really, and I learned about hard work then. So, but I mentioned Ron Saunders because ultimately I think he probably had more effect on me than others, even though I didn't really get on with him, But but I found that was his way of getting the best out of me. I never realised it till a lot later. I mean, there's lots of silly things went on when I was a player. That was always me kicking up a fuss, but he was happy about that, because he knew he was winding me up, and he knew that was just the way to make me show everybody what I could do out there. But I didn't realise that at the time. I used to call him some right names, to be honest, and he used to do it back to me. To be honest, we used to fall out for fun. Every day, there was a little bit of an argument between him and I. But I can look back and I realised that he'd found a little thing about me which made me react, which made me perhaps sulk and get angry on a daily basis, but made me want to play football out there, which was top management in some respects. But I think lots of people like that have had different types of effect, and you take a little bit of each and everybody. Which ultimately moulded my management sort of style.
So you joined Villa in 1994. You had great success at Leicester, and you managed to get them back to the Premier League. Was there high expectation, given your previous successes with Leicester, and given the fact that Villa had finished second in the Premier League a few years before?
I think when I came in, my short-term priority was to retain Premier League status. To be honest, we were. I think fourth off bottom in the Premier League at the time, and Ron was such a different character to me, and I knew that, and I knew the type of atmosphere he had around the training ground, and I knew how he would respond to his players, and his players responded to me, and I knew straight away that I couldn't try and copy that. I had to be myself, and probably more serious than a lot of people realise. But I was, I think I'd sort of perfected, is that the word? Well, I'd adopted a system that I knew was completely different to Ron Atkinson's. I generally played with 3 centre-backs. It was a different sort of mentality to approach games in. So there's so many things that were whizzing through my head prior to coming in. When the approach had been made, you think about all the things that are going straight away. Your mind process. Well, Villa was always going to mind process me. Some things you could dismiss. When I was at Darlington, there was a couple of clubs come after me, but my brain never went into that focus at all. But as soon as this was mentioned, then you start ticking over. So I had a lot of thought about how Ron would have approached things here, knowing that I was going to be so different. But in all honesty, my only aim at that early stage was to make sure that we were going to be in the Premier League at the end of the season. However, at the end of January, I think it came obviously November 25th, it was my birthday, 41st birthday, which is quite unique.
Present.
I mean, it was quite unique. But come the end of January, you know, I'd won Manager of the Month. I think we got into the top half of the table, and everything looked great. And then we had that unforgettable game against Leicester City that knocked the stuffing out of us. We drew 4-4, and then I couldn't win a game for a period after that. No, I think I knew what I wanted to do. I think after 5 years of 2 championships, 3 playoff finals, I had a system that I believed in, that I had to try and make the players here believe in. That was and the hardest thing with that was, you know, Ron's team were very experienced. A lot of them had been around the block. A lot of them had played at the highest level. A lot of them were international footballers. And here comes this fella in who wasn't very much older than them, but who'd played here, who was, you know, about to change the whole style of play, adopt a new approach. And older players are probably the more difficult ones to convince that that's the right thing to do. So there were a few little problems along the way, but I wasn't fazed by it to start with. I felt I was ready for the job. I wouldn't have come if I didn't feel I was ready. I came because I believed I could do it, but I did have a few problems those first few months, especially after January. February, March were really difficult. We lost some games quite bizarrely. I remember sinking to the floor at Leeds. I think we lost either 2-0 or 2-1 or 1. We lost by 1 goal. But that was the game that Yorkie actually made me. I remember that, you know, there's always defining moments in football. I remember playing at Leeds, and I remember we played Dwight up top. And I remember there and then thinking, bump, that's him.
Yeah.
You know,
because he was played out wide originally, wasn't he?
Yeah, I had Dino and I had Dalian, but I knew straight away that game convinced me that it wouldn't be wrong to play Dwight up top in my new team, as it would be.
Yeah. So I know you talked about hearing this opportunity, and once you got word of the opportunity to come back to Aston Villa, did you always see yourself coming back to Aston Villa as a manager, or was it just something that happened?
I think when I first started at Darlington, it was just something that I felt I had to do. After having 3 years as a youth coach at Villa Park, 3 years as a youth coach at Middlesbrough, I'd done the development thing, and I'd sat and watched that many games where I knew their role was completely different. From development, you can accept losing football matches if youngsters were progressing and getting into the first team. I wanted to win. I wanted to win games. So management became something that I wanted to try. The fact that I'd had a very brief spell at Wolves and won 50% of my games, but got sacked after winning 3 in a row, I think it was. I was like, that was always in the back of my mind. So, you know, football management was something I wanted to do, and it was fueled by, you know, 6 years of practice. But I wanted to be someone who needed to win games. I wanted to plan and build teams. I wanted to do things that a lot of people thought that I wouldn't be the type of person to do. But I say this sentence a lot of times to people when I talk to them, because every single player who played football with me always comes up to me like, "Can't believe you were a football manager." and yet, I genuinely thought about football every night of my life.
Was that quite insulting from there?
Well, no, because I was when I played football, I was the type of player that people would look at and say, he doesn't care about anything, you know, the ball comes to him, he flicks it over his head or he'll nutmeg somebody or whatever. But I used to think before I played a football match at night time, I'd go to bed and I would think about who I was playing against and how much I wanted him to think, blooming heck, what a player he is.
Yeah.
And I you know, so people didn't see that side of me, because I would come into work the next day, you know, my long hair, my biggest flare, I had bigger flares than anybody else, the highest platform shoes than anyone else. So I became a manager, so it was a massive surprise. But I always wanted to be, I always wanted to stay in football. The fact that I had to retire early made me want to be a coach. And I had a great opportunity when this came to me. Did I ever think I'd come here? At first, when I was first option with it, I stopped and I looked at John Gregory and I went, I'm not sure. And he went, if you don't do it now, it might never come. So I had to do it.
Yeah.
I had to do it. I had to come. But I really thought a great deal about Leicester. I was really happy there. I loved the club.
Yeah.
I had 3 great seasons there. It was always going to be controversial if I was to leave. But John hit the nail right on the head. He just said, if you don't do it now, you might not ever get asked again. Did I ever think did I ever dream about it day in and day out? Probably not, because I was that engrossed in what I was doing. But, you know, there was a tinge of, ooh, am I ready for that? Ooh, I was a player there who, I can't remember ever being moaned at by the fans here. Becoming a manager, you put yourself on a different level, you know, you can get moaned at. So I was aware of that as well. I was thinking, crikey, you know, I mean, if I fail at Villa Park, that could be something that I might not be able to live down or accept. But I've always felt, when I was managing early, in my early days, I always felt I could do anything, to be honest.
Yeah. You said earlier that after January and you won Manager of the Month, that you found it then hard, especially after the Leicester game, to win games. Was there any point where you or any of the players thought that you actually might get relegated in that season? I don't think
it entered our heads. I always felt we thought we had enough about us. I think the biggest problem was, you know, 1 or 2 of the older players, more senior players, not older, I should correct myself there. The senior players had begun to move out to other places. You know, we'd sold a couple of players. We'd brought in Tommy Johnson and Gary Charles and 1 or 2 others. So, you know, that's obviously being talked around in the dressing room. We're not daft enough to know that the players aren't going to be talking about that. Well, do you think I'm going to be here? No, and my agent's already working at this. So you have that going on behind the scenes. So that contributed to a little bit of a difficult period inside the dressing room. Younger players coming in, but younger players with a decent background. You know, I had theories, and one of my theories when I came here was to look at under 21 internationals who'd played at least 100 league games, who were playing at a good standard, who I thought were in the wrong place, who needed a place like this. The likes of Gary Charles, Tommy Johnson playing. Derby were the best team in the Championship at the time. We'd beaten them in the playoffs at Leicester City. And they were in England ex-England under 21 internationals with a lot of games under their belt. Alan Wright at Blackburn, ex-under 21 international. Lots of games under his belt, not in their team at the time, good players, you know. And Sabo was slightly different, full international, 21. So I knew what I was looking for, and I think the players in the dressing room knew what I was looking for as well. So it all comes in, and you know, football clubs, like any other industry, when some things are going on in the workplace, everybody's talking about it. It's the same thing, you know. It's a little industry inside, and everybody's aware of everything that's going on. So I think the problems that arose were from everybody thinking, is it me next?
Okay.
But at the same time, as a manager back those days, I said to a lot of the lads, you know, if I can get you a better deal somewhere else, then I'll tell you. And those days you could work like that, because the transfer window was a different animal to what it is today. But there was a lot of things that contributed to the last few months being difficult. But I never for 1 minute thought we weren't going to survive.
Okay. I'm going to take you forward now to your first full season in charge of Villa, and what an amazing season it was, finishing 4th, winning the League Cup. You won it twice as a player yourself.
Yeah. Was
it a better feeling as a player to win the League Cup or a manager?
No, manager, without a doubt. I've touched on it, and I hope it doesn't sound big-headed, but when I played football, I just played football. I never worried I never had one care. I could see players in the corner, praying in the corner before they went out there, putting wrong socks on inside out and all. And I used to stand there and just think, what are they doing? And I just played football. I loved playing football. I enjoyed playing. I never had a nervous moment in my life playing football. As a manager, wow, you're on a different ball game. So you're a manager, and every game you play, you have all the scenarios in your head, right? If I'm 1-0 down after 50 minutes, who have I got on the bench? If I'm 2-0 down, if I'm winning 3-0, what do I do? There's a million things that go on your head. He's knocked on my door this week. His girlfriend's giving him a hard time. So all the little things that make management so complicated are there. So management's a million times more difficult. So to achieve things as a manager, for me, to manage a group of people. To manage a stadium like this, to manage a support like this, is unreal. It's unbelievable. And I hear fans, saying, "Oh, he doesn't care. He hasn't got the club." When you're the manager, you care about absolutely everybody, everything. It's unforgiving, and you care of attention to detail and all sorts of things wears you out. But it's an unbelievable feeling when you achieve something. So for me, to have come here, to have won the cup as we did do that year, to have achieved fourth in the Premier League, to have got to the semi-final of the FA Cup was,
incredible season.
Yeah, it's incredible. It was a brilliant season, and to have created that team in many respects.
Yeah.
And I did, obviously Ron had left me Paul McGrath, great. Bosnich, great. Hugo, Andy Townsend, Steve Staunton. There was a nucleus there that I hung on to. But then you had, give Yorkie, of course, was still here, but to give Yorkie a license to play in a position that was different.
Yeah. To
bring a Southgate in, who was just phenomenal.
Because he was a central midfielder at first when he was brought in.
I knew he was versatile.
Yeah.
And we were looking at someone to sit and hold midfield. But within pre-season that changed. But just to put a team like that together, and to see that unbelievable change of from where we finished fourth or fifth off the bottom, with 4 points off the relegation zone in the end, to then the next season, it was just great. It was a brilliant feeling, and for me as a manager. Was that better? That was a better feeling than playing days? Of course it was. Of course it was, because, like I said to you earlier, not many people ever thought I'd be a football manager. But in 5 and a bit seasons there, I'd achieved so much as a manager at 3 different clubs.
Yeah.
Each of them being challenged, because Darlington were bottom of the old 4th division when I took over. Leicester had finished the lowest position they'd ever finished in their history prior to the last few years, where and coming here 4th off bottom, for on each occasion to have restructured and to have played a system that not many people have adopted, and to be successful with it was a brilliant feeling. So it was better than playing, because management you have to work at. I was fortunate in terms of playing. Football was just something that come pretty natural to me, so it was very much off the cuff at times, but I did think about it deeper than people ever thought. But management, it's a tough job, mate, seriously. It's hard.